Welcome back. In this video, we'll create a routine specifically for equipment calibration. Let's start by opening the Routine Setup application. Here, we'll create a new routine by simply adding one and giving it a name. For example, UT Flaw Detector Calibration Yearly. Once we've named the routine, the next step is to select the routine type. Since this is a calibration routine, we'll proceed by selecting Calibration. Next, let's look at the criteria. This defines whether the routine is time-based or usage-based. In this case, we're creating a time-based routine. We can also define the criticality level. Let's set it to medium for this example. Then comes the repeat interval, which specifies how often the routine should be performed. We'll set it to 365 days, meaning this routine will be carried out once a year. The execution time tells us how long it usually takes to complete the routine. Here, it's about 4 hours. Now, we define carried out by, which indicates who will perform the routine. Pre-assigned means a designated person is already responsible for it. Outsourced means it will be managed by an external vendor. Open gives flexibility. It can either be assigned internally or outsourced later at the planning stage. For now, we'll keep it as open if you prefer the flexibility to decide at execution time. As we discussed in the previous video, the due date notification defines how many days in advance a reminder should be sent before a routine is due on a particular piece of equipment. For this example, let's set it to 15 days prior. That means the user of the equipment will be notified first. You can also choose to notify the portfolio owner, the person who manages, maintains, or is the custodian of that asset under the portfolio. Once these options are set, we can simply save the routine. Now, the next step is to define the execution steps. In other words, how this calibration routine will actually be carried out. You can add the steps one by one here. For this demo, I've added 4 steps, but in reality, there are around 10 steps involved. You can continue adding all of them in the same way. Once the execution steps are in place, we move on to the allocation rule. This defines who is responsible for planning and executing the routine. As we discussed earlier, each operating unit may be located in a different region, so you'll need local planners or resources who can manage the calibration of equipment in those areas. The planner's role is to create weekly calibration plans and assign them either to internal staff or to external vendors if the work is outsourced. This ensures that the right people are accountable for carrying out the calibration tasks. Since this user is set as pre-assigned, the task execution will only be enabled under the pre-assigned option. That means a designated resource will be responsible for performing all tasks related to this routine. Similarly, you can create another operating unit, for instance, for the Eastern region, and assign a different person there. Later, this routine will also be linked to specific assets, making it easier to manage and track calibration activities. Alright, so once the assets are linked to these routines, they'll automatically be sent for calibration at the defined intervals. Since this is a calibration routine, there's no material requirement. But if materials are needed, you can define them here. You can also specify prerequisites, like informing the user to return the equipment due for calibration or arranging a replacement in advance. Prerequisites ensure the process runs smoothly. Every routine you create is automatically assigned a system-generated number, which acts as its routine code, and it becomes active right away. The next step is to assign this routine to an asset master. We'll cover that in the next video, where I'll show you how a newly created routine can be linked to existing assets as well as new ones. For now, that's all we have. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next session.